English, okay, so that's good. First, as I said before, welcome, and secondly, we are Ironhack. We are a coding school. We offer development bootcamp. In particular, we are now offering an iOS bootcamp and a web development bootcamp with Ruby on Rails. But on top of that, we also created, and we are going to grow our community, which is based on Meetup. Okay, so the idea is that we meet often, at least once a week during the year, and we offer workshops to the community of developer enthusiasts or people who are interested in the topic we are presenting. Everything we will present in our workshop is connected to coding in some way. Okay, mostly coding. So, today we are going to learn how to develop a game from scratch. Do you know Unity 3D? Who doesn't know Unity? First of all, this will be an interaction. So unfortunately, the configuration of the room is set up in a way, because of logistics, in a way that I cannot really go around the table and talk. But the idea is that we develop a game together and that we all interact. So please stop me if you have a doubt, if you don't understand. And I tuned this workshop so that we start from scratch. So if you are expert coders, then maybe this is not exactly what you are expecting, unless you never use just start. I suppose everyone video games in some ways is interested in video games. So the point is, with new interfaces, for example, touch interfaces, the paradigm of video games changed a bit. For instance, typically for standard games, we have a controller, we have more buttons, so we can select several actions. But in mobile video games, we typically don't have so many buttons. Okay, usually we just use the screen. Okay, and also the screen shouldn't be abused. Typically, there should be one maximum. Okay, so for example, some examples of controllers for mobile. Okay. So if we take old games, for example, Prince of Persia, if you know this old game, which is very nice, and it reminds me of my childhood. Okay, so the iOS version of Prince of Persia was the interaction paradigm was conveyed using this visual controller button. So you have like 4 buttons. The problem is in a mobile, you don't have haptic feedback and you don't feel the buttons. So it's very difficult to use. This is a wrong way to convey an interaction paradigm in a mobile game. Similarly, Double Dragon, look at this controller. This is crazy, okay? I play with it. I also have a controller, for example, that there are controllers now which are Bluetooth, and you can connect and you can play, but at least you have all the buttons. But in short, you have to find, because of the billions industry of mobile gaming today, that let's say the game designer found new interaction paradigms. Some of the most common paradigms are composed of one button, so one touch. For example, you do an Flappy Bird, but there are very good games like Batman, for instance, where you keep rolling and you play. And there are many games that have this paradigm. Sometimes you have 2 buttons, meaning 2 touches of the screen, one left, one right, and then there are individuals that made different interfaces. This is just an example. It's called PUB because it's a space shooter where you can use the voice as a control interface to go up and down. But this is just to show that people are very creative sometimes. Okay, what's Unity? Unity. Despite all the so Unity 3D, because we wrote also this morning, I wrote an email. Okay, so Unity 3D is like it takes more than 1 gigabyte, and it should be installed prior to this workshop. Okay, in case if you want you waste time in the workshop. Anyway, Unity is called Unity 3D, although now it's not just 3D. Okay, Unity 3D started as a game engine for 3D, for 3-dimensional environments. and not just for gaming. I don't know if some of you were, if you were here last month, we did a workshop about introduction to Unity. Okay, I was showing that in my previous life, I was working with Unity in 3D environments, like immersive virtual reality environments. So Unity is really suitable for not just for gaming, but also for art installations. And why that? Because in short, it allows you to program pretty freely. It handles all the physics of what is a game or an interactive environment, but on the other hand, also it allows you to program either in JavaScript or in C#. So C# has all the .NET library, for example. So you can make, you have all the entire range of commands. You could make an application in Unity that connects just XY. So what they started to do was some packages to hack the whole interface of Unity in order to have 2D games. At the end, Unity with version 4 supported automatically, like by default, out of the box, 2D. Okay, so that's great. So people didn't even need to have it. So now it's called Unity. It's still called Unity 3D because of legacy, but it's called Unity. Okay? That's introduction. Now we just start and we work a game. Okay? So today we will create a game which is a 2D space shooter. And the idea that we just download some material here. So we just can type the password, the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi is called welcome. And the password is @welcome with the W uppercase and the rest lowercase. Again, I will write it down somewhere. So the Wi-Fi is welcome, okay? The password is Can you see the code like this? So let me know if you have any trouble with So once you have the Wi-Fi, please download the material. Look, yes, this, okay, I explain. This is Ironhack, IH, okay? Ironhack 2D game. Let's be also lowercase, this case insensitive. IH 2D game, and this tinyurl.com. Are we all here? Can I change? Can I move? Okay, so let's start by giving a look at in my very tiny desktop. Okay, now I unzip the file I downloaded, and I have a folder which contains a font. Now we don't need the font, but it's like a kind of old-fashioned font for our game. We have a couple of sounds that we can use, and we have sprites. Okay, I found the sprites on Creative Commons, so we can use them freely. The sprites have two backgrounds, like two layers of the background, an enemy, a bullet of an enemy, and an enemy here. Okay. And ship, which is actually our player, and that's it. Now, also, please, if I'm going too slow for you or too fast, just tell me. Okay, we just this set. So let's go. Let's open Unity together. I suppose you already tried to open it after the installation, right? So asks your email. Okay, then a reminder this morning. And I open. Okay. Stop. You save it whenever you want. And we call it like 2D. I call it 2D space shooter. Okay. Which means that also in some way you can also create a hybrid game if you want. Now here, what's game? Okay, is basically the preview of the game. So this, no matter what you have on the scene, what you see on the bottom is the preview of the game. Okay. Then we have hierarchy here, which is all the objects we have in the scene. So basically, this is the scene. All the objects that we have in the scene are here, including the objects which are outside the camera. So every scene has a camera. Okay. The camera has a certain perspective, so it cannot just take the whole virtual world, let's say. So the camera is restricted to a view, and this view is what you have in the end in your game. Okay. So What you have in the hierarchy can be objects that you either see in the camera or also they are hidden from the camera. Maybe an enemy or something that is coming from outside and it will soon appear, you already have here. So here is all the objects which are, technically speaking, instantiated, okay, in the scene. And instead, in project, what you have is simply directories, okay, where you organize your files, your script, your assets, your images, and so on. Inspector instead is a special window, the most important, where whenever you select an object, you will have certain options and you can add certain features to this particular object. That's the overview. Another very important friend in Unity is the console. This console basically plots logs or errors. So I always keep the console here. I usually put it in another screen if I have a couple of screens or so on. But you always have the console. If you want to see the console, you just select Window, Console, and that's it. I leave it here, I leave it minimized behind, but it's important. If you make a mistake, you see which line and where and what's happening and so on. Now, one of the mobile games, well, Unity allows to create easily games which can be exported for a wide range of platforms, including iOS, Android, Apple TV, Xbox, PlayStation 4, Windows, Mac. So, and Unity handles almost automatically everything which has to do with the resolution. So the best thing for us is simply here in the game scene, choose where we see display 1, okay, the aspect. For example, I say iPhone, if I'm not wrong, iPhone, for example. The screen aspect, and that's it. So if our game works there and all the objects are into place, it will be automatically resized for most of the existing devices, especially if we, for example, for iOS, it's pretty easy because you have just a fixed number of resolutions. So this is handled automatically by Unity, including the text, the GUI text, for example, scores and lives and stuff like this. But we will see later. So that's the idea. So to implement a mobile game, which we choose basically, what we do is choosing a resolution which is suitable for a mobile game, so an aspect. Then it's just a matter of exporting it at the end. I will explain you how to do that, but it's pretty easy. It's pretty automatic, in short. Okay, and besides that, what we will do is implementing controls in the game, which don't imply 24 keys. Okay, we will make a game with 2 keys. So in the keyboard, we will press 2 keys, and then it will be automatically, or we can also implement it so that it works with 2 touches. Okay, so that's it. When we think of the interaction paradigm of this game, it should be a game which has 2 keys. Okay, because we want it to be mobile and not cumbersome. It will be a space shooter. Okay, so there is a spaceship moving up and down. That's the paradigm, I thought. And then you press another button and shoot. One button is to keep the ship flying, and the other is to shoot. And then you have enemies. Okay, and we will have other things that we will see. Cool. That's a start. So what I would say here is whatever we do, for example, I reduced a bit. Well, I can open it a bit, okay? I like that we're seeing bigger. Here I don't care. The black means it's not on the view, okay? But okay, hierarchy can be a bit smaller because it doesn't need to see the object. And then here in project, I want to see whatever we do in and I take these two. So I enter enemy, and I take the two files. I don't need the other folder. Okay. And just to show you what we are getting, here it's a bullet, small bullet, and here is the and what do we have here? I left it for you for later if you want to try other ships, other colors, so you can have more enemies. So I just take these two and I put them here. Okay. Also, in my case, this is called sprite sheet enemy. I want to call it enemy. So I just click enter. Similarly, what we do is go into the folder backgrounds. So we have two backgrounds, okay? I just drag and drop them here. So I have the background. Unity is quick in importing them, but actually it imports them already applying some filters. For example, if they are pixel art, there's a filter. In this case, it imports with a cubic filter. So after background, I also import the two files which are in sheet. Okay. So basically, you should have 6 files here. And one I called enemy, the other is called enemy bullet, the other far back, the other player bullet, the other is called still sprite sheet, I call it player. Because this red sheet is the player. So I call it player. Then I have the player bullet, and then I have starfield, which is a basically transparent. I don't know if you see the small dots. These are the stars. Okay, it's just a PNG, is a transparent image file which has some stars. So that's all we need to create a game. Okay. Any questions so far? Do we have everything in the folder sprites? So this said, we can start to put a background, okay? Or better, what we can do is importing the ship. Okay? How do you import a file into the scene? It's very easy. It's drag and drop. Okay. So if I take the ship and I drag and drop it, okay, it's in the scene. There is a problem here, but just to explain how to do. So similarly, if I take the background and I put it in the scene, you see, here it is. Okay, so now that we explained that we drag and drop, we have to figure out something, the proportions, okay? So when I'm here, as you can see, my ship is here. I can zoom. Basically what you can do in the scene here is choosing the hand up there, choosing the hand and moving the scene, okay, if it's a long one. You can rotate the object, you can increase the size of the object, and you can also, yes, you can increase the entire part of the scene. But the thing is, when you select an object, now that we put the object in the scene, it's also here in hierarchy. Okay. Whenever we select the object here and we double click, so if we double click on camera, for example, we see the overview, okay, of the main camera. The player, if you double click, you see the player sprite. And when you select an object, you have the inspector, which gives you all the features of the object. For example, the first is always the transform, X, Y, Z. In this case, it's just X, okay, and Z actually. And then the sprite renderer. What is this? Basically, each object has a component or more components. So the minimum component you need for a sprite is the sprite renderer, which is there by default. So what happens if you don't have this component? You can try yourself. If you click here, you don't have to do that, but if I just disable the sprite renderer, the sprite disappears. Why would you do that? Because through the code in Unity, you can access any object and each one of the components of the object. So then you can get the sprite renderer and disable it or change the color. You can apply many effects. Okay. Why would you make it transparent? Imagine you get a special coin that makes you transparent or like it changes your color for 3 seconds. So this is how you would do that. Okay. Then we will see how. Now, there is a problem with this sprite. Well, 2 things. First of all, this is big in the scene, but not big in our final game. So what we can do is several things. I can have the art designer to, I can have him drawing bigger sprites, okay, in accordance to our resolutions. Or we can, in this case, take the main camera, okay, I just select main camera, and notice that main camera has different components. Even the camera is an object instantiated in the scene, and it has different components, okay? So I could even change the camera. Imagine if you create a soccer game, okay? So you have everything in 3D. When you score, the camera goes around, zooms in, zooms out. This can be controlled by scripts. Okay? Now, this said, what I can do simply is.
Sorry, can I ask something?
Of course.
I can drop the buffer inside. So
Excuse me?
I cannot drag and drop. Maybe I have a setting wrong.
Where are you dropping?
From the asset to the screen.
Yes, but to the sprites folder, are you dropping here? Because if you drop in another place.
Yes. I took the folders.
Take a single file, not the folder. Take a single image file and drop it in the folder. Try that.
Thank you.
It works? While you are trying, I just want to show that by the size of the camera, okay, by changing this, so let's do the following together. We choose the main camera, we double click on the main camera, okay, we double click, and now here, where you have size, where we have size on the right, here, okay, you can change the size, so you can change numbers. But what you also can do, in each one of these components, if you move the mouse close by to the edge of the component, you have these 2 arrows. It means that if you hold and move left and right with your mouse, you can change the size. You see what I'm doing? It's like a slider, but you have to keep hold. Okay, why am I explaining that? Because visually, sometimes it's so in Unity you can do a lot of things visually, and it adapts automatically when you do the game. So basically, you see here, I'm just changing. You see on the scene view on top, I'm just changing the camera size. So I want to make a camera which takes a smaller portion of the virtual scene, okay? But now I don't see my sheep, okay? If I take the sheep, for example, now I select the sheep, I select this second part, let's say menu, and I can move it in the scene, a bit more center. You see where it is? Try with me. So first thing we do is double click on the camera, okay? We double click on the camera and we go in size and we change the size. You can either scroll like a slider or you can just a value. For example, I saw that it's 2 for me. Since we have the same size assets, you can also write 2. So for example, here, I can write 2 and that's it. If I write and I can just resize. Do you all have the camera 2? If you have the camera set with size 2, it's good. So now, do you all see the sheep inside or not, or is out? If it's out, it's not complex. What we do is the following. You choose player here, there is player. I choose it with one click, just one click. And then here on top, close to the hand, you have this cross. You select the cross. The cross allows you to move an object in the scene. So you would see this here. You can take the square in the middle and move it. You see I'm moving. Did you achieve this? Look, the video game finished. Done. That was quicker than I thought. Is someone stuck here? Are you all here? Good. Now we have a camera size which is okay, so we can start playing with Unity. However, that is the first problem. Well, I don't. Well, it has no sense to have these four components of the single sprite. We have two options when we create a game, especially a 2D game. We have a single object. We can have several frames in separated objects, like one PNG, two PNG, three PNG. Okay, so different images, and then we blend in an animation. Or we can have the so-called sprite sheet, okay, which is a sheet where we. So, for example, I show you what it means. Sprite sheet to the game. No, I'm just checking. Look, these are sprite sheets. Let me just find something like this, for example. Okay, so especially in the old times when the memory of computers was small, the tendency was creating all the graphic elements separately, but then put them in the same file and then slice them. So imagine this file is it went to memory, and then you would just slice the file and the coordinates, and you would have all the objects that you would use in the game. But this is also a very common technique today, especially if you are 2D games. So you put all the assets there. It means that if for some reason the designer changes one of them and you have the proper coordinated map, well, then you just import the new one and you just have new assets in the game. So that's why it's common. Now, on purpose, for today's workshop, I did a hybrid solution. So some of them are like let's say, in a sprite sheet way. Let's say, yes, some of them are sprite sheets, but very small. Some others, like the bullet, they are single sprites, okay? So I can teach you how to handle both, okay? Now, why do we have four spaceships? Because they are 4 frames. In fact, here, the spaceship doesn't change, but the fire changes. And also, you don't need to make the main camera bigger. In my case, I will make it a bit bigger so you can see better, okay? Not too big, but okay. Now, and also in my case, I put 16:9. It's the same, but I put 16:9 aspect ratio, so I have a bit more length for you to see. Okay, how do we import a sprite sheet? First of all, I delete the player from the scene, not the camera, the player. How do you delete an object? You can just click on the object and do right-click, delete. You can also press the delete button, but I delete it. The important thing now was to have the camera, okay? Already. Now, to import properly a sprite sheet, you just click on the image, on the original image, and you see the inspector. And also you see that the inspector tells you, what is this? It's a sprite, 2D, pixel per unit. Here you can rescale it, and notice if you rescale it, it has also filter mode called bilinear, and it has different filter modes. It means that it rescales not 1:1, but it uses filter like Photoshop, for instance, or GIMP. So it has some algorithm to not lose too much quality if you scale up a sprite. This works pretty well. The only thing you have to do when you have a multiple sprite in the same image is in sprite mode, select multiple. Okay? You have to select multiple, and then you have the sprite editor. So click on sprite editor. and it tells you, we have to apply the settings. It's true, there was a button here called apply, we didn't press it, so let's press apply. And this opens. This is the sprite editor, it's pretty powerful. Now, what we need to do in the sprite editor when we have a multiple sprite like this, it's slicing it. So how do you slice it? There is the slice button here. There is the automatic slicing that sometimes works well, especially when you really have fixed, let's say, a bit of space between each one of the sprites inside the sheet. But here, you don't really have so much space. In fact, here you see, it's not really, there's not a net gap between both of them. So in fact, if I press automatic, it doesn't really work well. But then in these cases, what I do is pressing grid by cell size, okay? Now, to understand what we want to do exactly, what I would do, I can do it alone. I don't need, and then we apply this together. So basically, I open the sprite in a normal, let's see. This sprite is 64 by 116, okay? It's written here. It's not Unity, it's my graphic software. So now what I do is say, okay, 64 is the width, 116 divided by 4, because I have 4 sprites, is 29. Perfect. So now I know that I have sets of 64 by 29. Let's go back to our sprite. 64 is the width and 29 is the height. I press. You should see, I don't know if you see here in the projector, these lines. You see? So I sliced it. Did you all slice it properly? 64 by 29. Apply. I applied it. Now I don't see it. So now I can close it. So what happens here? It happens that if I click on this arrow, on this small arrow close to the sprite, are you all here? Someone is stuck. Someone is stuck. Or not? Everyone is here?
One second, please.
So in the meanwhile, I just show. Any doubt? Any doubt here?
After doing the four
Yes.
images, we have to press slice and that's all. Or?
And then apply up there. Apply.
Okay.
So you see that also I can see that like I can also resize the manually. But now it's easy because they're all the same. But I could have also another element here which is a different size and manually create slices all around. So at the end of the day, I have all my slices for it. Now we will see if it works easily. So first of all, double click on the main camera. Okay. Now you see that my scene, the camera is very small. Zoom in. I mean, if you have a mouse, you use the wheel. If you have a Mac, you use the I use the 2 fingers. So I zoom in so that the camera in the scene on top is more or less big, almost like the final view of the game. Why almost? Why don't I set up this one-to-one? Because if I have some elements coming from outside, I will make enemies. For example, our enemies, our spaceship enemies will come out from here. I want to see them before they come, so I see how the logic of the game works. Okay, so I have the camera, now I set it up. How do we put the sprite in there? We already know that it's drag and drop, but when we slice it, if it's a sprite, we have to slice. Then we go, we choose the sprite, we click on the little arrow. There is a little arrow here, you see? So here we are. I see the 4 slices. I select the 4. I select them by keeping shift pressed. Okay, typical. Now, how do I move the 4 slices? How do I create an animation? Okay, with these slices. what do I have to code to do that? Okay, so it's pretty complex. So you just have to. Did you choose the 4 of them? So click on one of them, and then drag them into the scene and release it. If there's a new animation, perfect. I call it yes player. You can call it whatever you want. You can even call it new animation. Okay. I say, oh, player, save, and that's it. Okay. So it's pretty easy going as a game engine. Very, very, very simple. So now what changed? Well, if it all worked and I press how do I play the game? Well, guess where? I press play here. Press play. I have my propeller working. That's it. Basically, if the artist creates the art properly, I already have this. Is it okay? It gives you satisfaction at the beginning, then you start code and it doesn't work, you get frustrated, but now let's enjoy the moment. Then okay, so that's our first character in the scene. Cool. We are all happy. Now what we want to do is, first of all, we don't like to call them like player 0 here, right? If you have a name like player 0, rename it in player. And also, you can rename, when you choose player, so when you click on it, you can either rename it here by pressing enter, or even right-click rename. But also in the inspector up here is the same, okay? This is the name. So I call it player, but not player 0. I call it player with the, I want it mobile order. Okay, so I have my player called properly. Another thing, do you see the position here? You have the scale, you can make it bigger, but I wouldn't recommend to make it bigger, okay? If you want to make the game big, you can change the camera, but keep 1:1 scale for the assets. Because imagine, if you have a game, and you have the okay, then you have the move 1:1. Then you will have pixelated contours for some of the sprites, not the other. So the artist gives you the element 1:1. Then you resize the whole scene like I did, and you don't change the size of the element. He has to make them the proportion properly. You can change them, but it's a dirty technique and also doesn't come out so nice. So scale we don't usually touch, okay? But position we can, for example, X and Y, we can specify a different position. Since it's a lot of decimals, we can use the same trick by moving the cursor, as I said before, close to the letter X, for example, position X, you see? I have this kind of little arrows. Do you get them? And then I just move it, you see? So I have the arrow, I just press, I hold the click and I move left and right, you see? So I can move it. Now, of course, I can also move it manually here with the mouse here. So I'm there now on the right. But also from here, when you need to fine-tune movements, like small new movements, you can also use that one for X and Y. It's important. Okay. Any question here? Now we want to create a background. Let's put the first background. The background will be this far back. Okay. So I just drag and drop it in the scene. It's huge. So in this case, maybe we scale the background, but let's put it. I put it in the scene. Okay. Okay. Now I'm zooming out a bit, and I notice that the background is huge compared to the scene. So what I would try is resizing it a bit. It's not the best. I just said it's not the best thing, but for the background and for the sake of deducting, we just resize it a bit. It would have been better if I had this already tuned for the sheet. We can keep it like this, but it's a bit redundant. So how do I resize it? Well, I just said that there is scale on the right, or I can, for example, choose. I choose the background here. It's called fair back. Oh, fair back. Far back. So I click here on top here. Okay. And I resize it a bit. Okay, something like this. I don't need to mark the proportion to be perfect, but I resize it anyway in a way that it's still long. We want long backgrounds, you will see why. And now I want to move it, so I select the second cross. So play a bit with this, so you learn how to move. And okay, sounds nice to me. Looks nice to me. Are you here more or less? Okay. Now I have a small problem. I don't see the player anymore. And similar to graphic softwares, here in each one when I choose in inspector associated to each one of the objects, I have a layer, ordinary layer, 0, 1. So the higher, the closer to your eyes. This. So if I go in player, ordinary layer 1. So I clicked on player once, and then here in sprite renderer, I have ordinary layer. Okay, so I click on player, ordinary layer 1. This is ordinary layer. You click on the player, and on the inspector there is ordinary layer. Click on the player, ordinary layer. It's also a line, no? Click on the player, you remember now. Click on the player, ordinary layer. That's it. Now it's super cool because imagine we have 3 or 4 different levels. We have planets which are after the main background, and then we have stars, and then we have the spaceship, and then we have something on top of the spaceship. That's it. That's how it works. Okay. Now, good. Are we all here? Good. Who's not there? And if you're not here, just ask. Don't feel intimidated by my strong tone. No, seriously, we need help. Okay, feel free to ask. Okay? Yes.
That's where the sprites and stuff. I'm just using the this one's already in Unity. I don't know where you got all the sprites that came in a little late. I'm just using the standard things.
Yeah. So I give you. No, I give you the download. I leave it here while I explain. Okay.
Okay.
It's Ironhack to the game. Okay. One thing I want to explain is the following. Why do we have, we said we have a main camera always. Why do we have one main camera? Can we have more cameras? Yes, of course. We can have cameras in the game with the main camera and others. Why? Because, for example, I could have a game. Imagine it's a game like Command and Conquer. I'm always stuck to 20 years ago with games. So you have a game you see from outside, from an isometric perspective, for example, but you have a map also on the bottom right. So you can have a second camera, and you resize the second camera so that it doesn't take the whole screen, but it just shows here. Or imagine you do a multiplayer game. You can have 4 cameras. So that's why we have a main camera, because we can have as many cameras as we want, as our memory allows us to render. Are we done with the sprites? Perfect.
Question. When I'm removing the background, is the animation is not animating anymore?
You remove the background?
No, I just pressed play again, and now I lost the background. I don't know why.
Yeah, but is it still in play or not?
Oh, yes.
And you don't have the background, or you don't have the
Now I lost the background.
Okay, it's very simple. This can happen. So, do you have it here? Here. In the hierarchy?
No, it disappeared from there.
So you deleted it. You deleted the background, just drag it again.
No, I mean, once I play, I press play, the background disappears from the list. I don't know why.
From the hierarchy? To both of you?
It happens at the same time.
Are you using the...
I can do the handovers.
Try to look, stop the play and delete the background and put it again. That is very easy background. Just drag it there and let's see. And
No, it's also because the player, the attribute is getting the previous name is getting player 0 as well. So it's like going back.
Okay, but did you change the background when it was on play?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I explained.
Yeah, I put it.
Yeah. So when you are playing, when you are in play mode, and notice a thing. Notice it's a lot clearer here. It's a lot clearer. But when you click, it's darker. You can even go in the preferences of Unity. I saw a guy in once one Unity evangelist in LA, which was doing this course, and he was there and he was explaining us to put it in purple. So in the preferences, you can say when it's in play mode, the whole color of the interface, make it like very, very bright, so you don't make a mistake to change things during play mode. In play mode, you can change a lot of things. That's very good because, for example, imagine you're fine-tuning the speed of a character. You can change it in the inspector while you're playing the game, so you see which is the perfect value. Imagine the value ranges from 1 to 2000. When you have the perfect value, you say, okay, it's this value. You stop playing and you write that value. But whatever you do while playing is uncancelled. Is it working now?
Yeah, that's why.
That's why. Okay.
I did the changes during the.
So if you get confused with the play mode, you go in preferences and you have colors and you have play mode tint. Okay? Make it purple. Make it a color kind of mistake, green. So when you're in play mode, you will see from a visual cue that it's okay. Are we all here now? We proceed, okay? Now, one of the most important thing of a game engine as Unity is not just dragging and dropping and slashing animation, is the physics. That's why we use game engines, right? Because games have physics, so we want things to actually emulate the real world, or emulate whatever world we want. We want to have a gravity. We want to have a collision with some other entity, okay? So each one of these components of a physical object is available in Unity. So now let's give some physics to our ship. I press on player, okay? And then in the inspector here, I told you that we can add a lot of things, components, scripts, and sounds, and so on. So what I do here, okay, is adding a component. I press on add component. Also, I think I'm explaining here. If you add a component by error, you can just click, this is a component animator. What is this component? Is the animation I just put. If I delete it, I have the ship, which is in the renderer, but not the animation of the propeller, okay? Now, here you can, if you click on this small, let's say wheel, you can remove the component or remove it. I'm just showing. Or also, if you click here on the other side, you just collapse it. I collapse it now. I keep it, but I collapse it. Sorry, I show you. It's easier for you to see it because it's higher in the screen. Also, the sprite renderer, I collapse it. They are still here collapsed. So let's add a physical component to our ship. I selected player. It's written here. Player add component. The first thing you need is a rigid body. It's called. So you write rigid, and it shows you have rigid body and rigid body 2D. We are making a 2D game. Which kind of rigid body we choose? 2D. So we choose rigid body 2D, and we press enter or click on it. And it creates the whole rigid body here, okay? Or in the inspector, all the properties of the object player. So each object can have one or more properties, components, better said. Okay? And each one of these components, by script, when we code later, can be accessed. So if it has a certain mass, for example, I can increase the mass, decrease the mass, I can do whatever I want. So you can manipulate the virtual world in a way that wouldn't be possible yet in the real world. Now, what's happening if I press play? Let's see, okay? Physics. The ship falls, and falls very low under the scenery here. That's good. It's what we wanted. So this is the first part of the physics. Now, instead of making it fall forever, why don't we create, I would do the following. I would create a floor and a ceiling invisible for the game. Because the game, it means, if I don't put the floor and ceiling, even in a game, something is just lost completely, okay? It goes down, down, down forever and you cannot play. So basically, since this virtual world has no boundaries at the moment, my ship falls forever and let's see. Finish the game. Could be a game, but it's not the best, the most compelling game I've ever played. So we should create a floor. How do we create a floor? In the scene here, I go in game object. Okay. To the object. sprite. I'm creating a sprite, but you would say, I didn't design any sprite. Yes, I'm creating an empty sprite. I don't care, I don't want to see anything. If I had a floor, like with spikes, for example, I would import the floor with the spikes. The object is called new sprite here, and it's empty. Okay, the object is called new sprite. So, first of all, I would rename it into floor, because then I get confused. And now, I want to add a component to this sprite, which is invisible. Okay, add component. Okay, there are two main components in the physics of a game. The rigid body, which actually makes the object physical, and the collider. The collider is like a sort of box around the object, which allows to detect collision. It's all handled automatically by Unity. It means that if I have two circles, two bullets, or even two spheres in 3D, if I add a component called collider, the moment they move in the camera, they move, they rotate. When they touch, I get an event like collided, and then as I can say, if collided, lose a life, if collided, run animation explosion, if collided, blah, blah, blah. So it's all about collisions and physics games, okay? So now, we have selected floor, and I add a collider, and there are many colliders. We will use a box collider, box shape of a box, square, or a rectangle. Circle is a circle, depends. If you have a bullet, which is a perfect circle, you might want to use a circle collider, okay? Or if you can even in 3D use the edge collider. Edge collider means that if you have a 3D avatar, you can even, instead of making a box around the avatar, for each one of the pieces, you can have a piece of collider. So it's very precise, but very demanding in terms of graphical GPU, CPU, okay? So it depends on the power you want to do. For sure, you wouldn't do that in a mobile game. Maybe you would put 3 or 4 colliders, one for the arm, okay, like a big box here, big box here. You don't need to put like 1,000 colliders just on the forearm. For 2D games, you just use box or circle, and that's it. Box collider, okay? Now that I put the collider, and if I zoom a bit, and I selected floor, I actually see that I have a sprite. It's empty, but I see the collider. Do you see the collider? That's good. Oh, well, let's try it. I put it under this invisible square. I put it under the ship. Okay. So what's happening now? The ship keeps going down. Why? Because I have to put a rigid body also to this. So on the floor, besides the collider, I also have to put a rigid body, okay? So you need 2 physical bodies that touch each other. So let's choose floor, and let's add rigid body to the floor. It's like we did before with the ship, right? Any question on this? Oh. What happens is that also the floor falls. So now we can start to use the tricks of physics in game, okay? Just for the floor, we will have here all the rigid body options, okay? We can do a lot of things. For example, let's try kinematic and explain what it is. Let's try, because I'm trying to. Okay. Let's try. So its kinematic works, okay? But it still goes down. In short, when you're on floor, select is kinematic. Okay, is kinematic is like a special trick that is used to leave something where it is, even though there is a mass and a gravity. Okay? So now it's working, except that the ship still goes down. So what do we miss? Probably a collider in the ship. Okay? We have a rigid body. Try to add a collider to the ship. Okay? So everything should have a rigid body and a collider. Not always, but typically. Okay? Now, in the player, I also added. In the player, I added the collider. So if you did it properly, when you press play, okay, I'm in play mode now, okay? You see? I have the floor. Are we all here? Now let's resize the floor so that it's a thin and long rectangle, and we put it at the bottom of the scene. How do we do that? Stop playing. And you click on the floor here. And now, by choosing this on top, do you remember we used before that option there? Now you stretch it. You stretch it. You make it smaller. If you have to move it because it's not centered properly, just choose the second one here. And you put it under the camera. Don't waste time, not time, but space inside the camera. Just under the line of the camera, because so the game is full screen completely, and if it touches the bottom of the screen, it's here. Okay? And you stretch it a bit more. Look at it. You don't have to be super precise because it's something. Okay. Look, I even do it a bit bigger. Is it okay? One thing we forgot, which is very important, we have to save this scene. We have to save, because if something happens to the computer. So we go in File and say, Save Scene. A scene is a level. We can have many scenes and go from a scene to another. For example, a scene could be the menu, welcome, play, okay? And the other scene, level 1. So now we say, Save Scene. And I call it level 1. Okay. Where is the scene saved here? In assets. So if I click outside sprites, I see level 1. This is a scene. Because then if we have like 200 levels, we could just access to one of them directly from here. Now, I will not tell you, but I will press many times Command S or Control S to save my scene with the shortcut. Do the same, okay? I don't go there to show. Okay. Is it working for you? Look on the bottom. It's good because it touches really the bottom. It gives it this idea. Okay, now we need a script. Okay? How we will do with the script? I thought that instead of writing, because from here is far and it's never working, or it will take 12 hours, I prepared the small pieces of code, which will manually put there and go through them and try. Okay? Then you have it home and you check and we will understand. If you have any question about the lines, I explain. So, welcome. Let's see where I had my. I will do this. I open the slides. Second. Player controller. I want the simple version. Just copy this. Okay? Pastebin is just a website where you paste your code. So I give you. So just go there. Pastebin, the first one. Okay? On top. So we do the first. We actually do the first script. So all the scripts will be on Pastebin. Who's still copying? I changed. Did you copy? Okay, so I keep it in the browser. What I do here is not copying directly from but I will click always on row here, row, so that we have the code and we don't copy any other code of the web page. So you click on row every time we use pasting, so you have the actual code. Okay. Now, okay, that's the code. There are a lot of comments. Okay. In short. Okay, let's do this. Now we have the code here, but let's open Unity and let's create the first script. The first script, well, what I will do is in the assets folder where I see the level and the sprites, I click on assets. I create a folder called scripts. Folder scripts. Are we there? So we open the folder script, so I'm inside scripts. Okay, so I'm inside scripts. And I do create C# script. In Unity, you can program in C# and in JavaScript. You can even have both one script in JavaScript, one script in C#. I prefer C#. Okay, so you use C# with the C#. So now the thing is that JavaScript, C# is a bit more structured. So if you learn programming, these kind of games, they are very similar actually, because the JavaScript version adapted for Unity is not just the JavaScript one would use in the browser, for example. It's very common for web development. For Unity, I prefer C# because I have access to all the .NET library. So because of my own career, I've used a lot more C# and I like it more for Unity. For the web, you don't have C#, for example, or not so cheap. So I choose C# script, okay? And we have to call it player controller with the P lowercase, player is lowercase, and the C of controller uppercase. Why? Just because I already prepared the code, otherwise we can call it as we want and it's the same, okay? But now we call it player controller, all together, no spaces, lowercase p. You can look at what I'm writing. So player controller. Okay. Why am I telling you that with such an attention? Okay. Because now I created a script. The script, I show you how it works. I show you how it works. We create the first script. I double click on the script. You should have already installed some text editor now. I have MonoDevelop. Is everyone opening it? So you should see this code. Who has problems with this? Nobody? We all have an editor? Can I continue? No? No, I'm asking because I hear so something's happening there. Is working or not? So that's our first script. By default, our script is always like this. In short, here you declare which kind of components you need, basically what's required to run. But by default, you have Unity engine and system collection. Okay, so basically this is a standard script which does nothing. In Unity, you always have two main functions. This is a function with void. Okay, one is start and one is update. Always like this is a typical Unity script. You can have as many scripts as you want. Start is the code that you write inside start is executed just when the object is instantiated, so when the object appears in the scene, okay? Then the code update keeps being executed continuously, okay, until the object disappears from the scene or is destroyed continuously. What does it mean? For example, you say, if first thing, you see that it's called player controller here? So when you create a new script, it creates exactly the same name of class automatically. It means that since it's case sensitive, if I write player with P uppercase, for example, it will be with P uppercase. Now, since we will copy paste my code and I call player controller with a P lowercase, it would give you an error. That's why. Where this is the case, you can still rename it after. It's not a problem if you make a mistake, but that's why I'm insisting on the uppercase, lowercase in the classes of the script. The class is like the main functionality of the object. Now, to write our first script is very easy. I show it first. If in start we write debug, you see the data field for you, debug dot log, okay, and in parentheses, hello. And semicolon, so this is the syntax, okay? Always semicolons at the end and the command and whatever. In start, I write it. Is it okay? Now, I have it, I save it. I'm not telling you, but I'm pressing Ctrl S, so save it. File, save. Command S or Ctrl S, so you save it. Now, what happens if I play? Absolutely nothing. Why? Because I have to associate the script to one object, one or more objects. Okay. So how do we do that? Guess how? I drag and drop the script on the component. So for example, you see player. This is the player controller. I want to drag it on the player. So I take the script player controller and I drop it here. Okay. How do I make sure I actually did it? If I click on player, here I see the player controller on the inspector. Do you see it? Imagine you make a mistake, you drop it in another object. Then you delete it, I delete it, look. Remove component. So not only you can drag and drop a script, you can simply click in add component and write the script name and you find it here. You see? So now I associated this script to my sheet. So if I press play, what's happening? It writes hello here. Here on the bottom left, okay? Now, the bottom left is just the last line of the console. Do you see it? Do you see?
My program, we open the script is Visual Studio. How to change?
Which editor you have? Which editor do you have other than Visual Studio? Do you have Notepad++? Perfect. So go in Unity, Preferences. Who has Visual Studio there? Look, if you have another editor like Atom, look for Atom editor in Google, download Atom editor. Okay?
It's fine, I'm comfortable with it.
If it works well, it's okay. So for you instead, look, Unity Preferences, here, External Tools.
Look, this
Unity?
my first option is file.
Okay, here, Edit Preferences. Look around there.
It's an edit.
Edit Preferences in Windows, something like this. Right? Found it? Now you go in External Tools. Yes, there will be different with the UI and the back. And here, External Script Editor, you can browse and choose the application you want. So don't choose Visual Studio if it doesn't work for you. Okay? All the others. Do you have the hello on the bottom left? Now, if I click on console, also here I say hello, you see? So basically, hello command, and I put it in update. And I paste it. Okay? What happens? I pasted it in update now. If I press play, I see a log on the bottom left because it's the last line. But if I open the console, sorry, do you see? 400 the lows, 500. This is the cycle. Okay, so in update, it keeps doing a cycle. Is it clear? Is the concept clear? Any question? So now, pay attention to this. There is one thing, next thing I tell you, in case sometimes you see me in my code writing not update, but fixed update, it's another name, which is a standard in Unity. Update is a cycle that goes as fast as you can with the CPU. So if you have a mobile, which is faster, you might have a game that goes faster, okay? So it's not so standard. So typically, I use, and everyone uses, fixed update. Fixed update is the same thing. You don't see the difference, but you would see the difference when you have a game which is complex. Because fixed update updates every X milliseconds, okay? For example, every 2 milliseconds. So at least everyone uses the time, each one of the devices you will play the game in, will use a fixed time frame instead of just the power it has. Otherwise, if I have a super fast device, it goes too fast the game. This happened with some old games when they were tuned to old computers, and you try them in a bit more powerful computer, like 75 megahertz, and it was tuned for 26 or whatever it was. Now they do that, okay? So it's very important you keep the fixed update. Practically changes nothing for you here, but I'm telling you if you see fixed update, why it's written. Any question? So now that we have this player controller, what we can do, go back to the browser where we have the raw version. So we were in paste B, okay? I clicked on raw, so always click on raw, okay? So I open the real file. I just select everything, I do Control A, Command A, so I select everything. I copy it, Control C, Command C. And what do? I go back to my editor, I select everything, I delete everything, so delete everything, and paste my code. And save it. Okay? Now, let's go through the code. At the beginning, there is just a bit of a notice. And by the way, if you see Iñaki, this is a friend of mine, he's a very good pixel artist, he has some games on the store. So we would need a lot more time. So in case we organize a workshop, you let us know, and I will let you know when we have the workshop. So you leave your email or something. But that's why I left him here, so you know this, and we always do things together in this sense when we also create the art. And he's a pixel artist, just works with pixel art. Very cool. This said, let's see. Here we know this. This is standard. This is standard. Now, what is public and private? These are variables. Variables, I mean, if someone doesn't know what is a variable, is a word that I associate to a value. Okay? If I say three lives, okay, and I can say lives minus 1 is, I know that lives are 2, and so on. Okay, I don't go into detail, but this is a variable. So basically, I did add, and the gray parts with all these slashes are comments. I left comments for you guys, so ignore them at the moment unless you want to read. So variables can be values. For example, here look, push up, force. I just made these values, which are similar to the values we changed before, like mass, gravity. We can change. You can also change them here. Okay. So here I just made three values. One is the push up force. Probably we push up the the ship. One is a bullet offset, because we will have a bullet, and the offset means it comes out from here or from here. Imagine you have a cannon on top of the ship, and you don't want to shoot from the center. You want to shoot from the sprite that you want. Okay, so that's what we did here. And here is another variable, which is a game object. So also a game object can be a variable. For example, I can take another object like a bullet, and I say it's a variable, so I can take the bullet and say use bullet, use bullet, use bullet. That's how you assign objects. Private means that the variable is inside this code and doesn't go outside this code. Public is a variable that goes outside this code, okay? And you will see how it's very useful. Public means that if you have another script that handles the lives or the score and is not here, the score, if it's private, it can be changed just in that script. But if it's public, I can have an enemy ship, for example, that is shot, and then from the enemy ship script, I say, okay, take the original score, then in the other script and decrease it of 1 or increase it of 1, whatever. Is it clear? Public. Private is just, for example, here. I need the player bullet offset just here in that where I have to shoot the bullet. I don't care about it's not a universal thing in my game. It's there. Okay? Now, after this, I didn't even boot start. I just have the fixed update. Okay. And what is the fixed update? It's simple. It's an if. There's actually two ifs here. I will tell you why, because you could press them at the same time. So if you press fire 1, I will explain what is fire 1, the button fire 1, then go to the function which is called fire pressed. I called it fire pressed. It could be called Joan. Okay. Fire 2 goes to fire 2 pressed. I created two functions. Very simple. If you press fire 1, do this. If you press fire 2, do this. So what are these functions? Fire 1 pressed takes the rigid body of the object where the script is attached. Is the script attached? On the player, okay? So you remember we created a rigid body? So it creates a rigid, it gets the component rigid body from where it is, and it adds a force, okay, which is, okay, we have a xy, no? So x0, it doesn't move it, and y of a certain amount, okay? What is this amount? Push-up force. Push-up force, I set it here, 6, but then I could change it, okay? Basically, what does it mean? If I press a button that is fire 1, we'll see what it is, then it pushes up the ship. If press fire 2, okay, it will instantiate, what will it instantiate? What is called player bullet. What is player bullet? A game object that I will assign, and I say, okay, so if you press 1, it just go up. If you press 2, take the object player bullet that I have to assign and do something. What does it do? Well, first of all, it instantiates with the offset. The offset that I set up above, okay? I could have said 0, 0, it was not a problem. Okay? It instantiates the player bullet, and that's it, good. The rest is just a collision, it's here, but we don't need it now. But if I collide, it collides the player. What does it mean? It means that then I can say, okay, on collide, these are functions of unity. Then I can do something, for example, on collide, right, collide. On collide, right, game over. On collide, right, lose a life. Okay, and that's it. Is it clear here? Of course, it's not tricky, but it's not difficult. It's just a bit of code with a lot of comments. Now, if you did it properly, and you press play, it should work without complaining too much. There is a complaint like an assigned variable player bullet, okay? Does it work? No, it did nothing at the moment, but to press, it's control, left control, because fire 1, the button we call fire 1, is a standard button in Unity, is called left control, okay? And notice also that I wrote player collided on collision, so it collided on the floor, okay? So the action is there. How do we actually make it fly? The player is too heavy. Like me when I go to Italy for Christmas. So now, when you press player and you go in the rigid body, let's decrease the mass of the player. It's too heavy. We have gravity 1 and mass 1 is really falling down. Let's put the mass of the player to 0.2, for example. We can try it, okay? 0.2, 0.5, can find 2. And play. You see? 0.2 could be okay. And you can fine tune it. Does it work? Control left. Now, even while we are here, we can even, during play mode, I could even change it. Look, I can change it here and play it. You know what? It's better 0.35. 0.35 is a better mass.
I have a warning.
What?
I have a warning.
A warning, but it works? What's happening exactly? What's warning? Read me the warning.
The reference script on the behavior is missing.
Because you call player controller. Ah, no, wait.
And the reference script on the behavior being object player.
Okay, so go on player. Here. What do you have written here? What do you have written? Do you see player bullet? Let me see. Did you change the name or something? Ah, but it's a warning. Where is the script? You made a typo. With 2L, player control left. Put 1L. So if you make a typo in the file name, it happens. Okay, it doesn't find the script. No, go back to the script. So here, you see that it's correct, but you made a typo in the file name. So close the script and rename it, and then it will work perfect. So go back to unit. Right click here and put 2 L's, and then and it will work. Okay. Do you all have the flying machine? Eh? Okay. Cool. Now, there is one thing that maybe you have noticed, maybe not. Did you notice here that he writes player bullet? Did you notice? Why? Because player bullet basically is a public variable. So when you have in the code a public variable like this, it basically allows you to change it from inspector directly. So you can actually drag and drop objects there. So let's create the bullet. Try to follow me. To create the bullet, we need something that we can instantiate. How does it work? We go in sprites, okay? We choose the player bullet, which is simply the sprite player bullet, and we drag and drop it here in front, more or less in front, wherever. Is it okay? Now here comes the extra thing. Everything that is instantiated, a game object in Unity, is an object. It's not just a sprite, it's a game object. To make a game object, means that it's not just the sprite itself, but also a game object with rigid bodies, scripts, 200 scripts, whatever. So it's a game object. How do you make a game object from a sprite? You drag the name and drop it in the folder here. And these game objects are called prefab, like prefabricated, which are game objects which are images, animation, scripts. It's very important because, for example, imagine you have now we are making a bullet. The bullet will not go automatically in front. We will have to put a script on the bullet so that every time it's instantiated, it moves. Okay. By doing that, we don't want to create we cannot have a bullet every time which is a sprite and another script. we create a prefab of a bullet that once it appears in the scene, it just goes. This is a prefab. Prefab is an object with many components. How to create a prefab? Well, first of all, I go in assets and to create a folder I call it prefabs. Okay, and I enter in prefabs. Now I take player bullet from here. I drag and drop it in prefabs, and it becomes a prefab. I know it seems the same, but player bullet became blue. Do you have the same? Why do I hear blah, 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 blah? What's happening? It's dragging and dropping. Is it okay? Or do you have questions? Yes.
How did you say to create a prefab?
Yeah. Do you want me to show you? So I did everything. I'm in sprites. I want to create a prefab. Why? Because I want a bullet. Why? Because the bullet, when you put it in the scene, is there like this. It doesn't move. You want a bullet? We will create a script for the bullet that does force and moves. I do like my dancing. So now the bullet is just a mere image. So I put it in the scene like I did before. So like I did with everything else. I put it here wherever I want, in front of the ship more or less. Okay. And now it's in the hierarchy. Okay. Now from the hierarchy, you can drag it and drop it in prefabs. There it becomes a prefab. Yeah, this is a convention in Unity. It's just you learn it once, prefab is something that you instantiate, not instantiate, you drag and drop in the scene and you put back in the prefabs. Now, whatever you do in the prefabs will be applied to all the objects you create, which are associated to it, you will see. I drag it and drop in the prefabs, and it's here, okay? You know what? Now that I have a prefab, I go in the I set the bullet and I delete it. I don't want it here. I don't care. It has to be instantiated. Whenever I want from the script, when I press fire 2, it's instantiated. Now, okay, sounds good. So let's get back to our code. Here, do you remember I wrote public game object player bullet? Public. Since I wrote public, this is something I have to assign. Because notice the other variables. This is already 6. This is equal to 0.50. This is equal to nothing. You say public game object player bullet, okay? Which means that just I want to receive an object called player bullet. You have to give me. And when you have this object at the beginning, when you press fire 2, you instantiate player bullet. Is it clear? So every public object, if now you click on player and check inspector, every public object here appears as a variable. You see? So now here, in player bullet, which is the name again, if I click on the small circle on the right of player bullet here, okay, and player bullet, small circle, I can select all the prefabs. Okay? How many prefabs do I have? Just one, player bullet. Did you do that? Can you do that? Did you see it? Cool. So now you see that I associated player bullet here. So now when I press fire 1, this is control left, I fly. And fire 2, which at the moment is alt left, I should instantiate a bullet. Okay, let's see. Cool, look. I'm instantiating bullets. Millions of them. Is it okay? Now, also notice that every time you instantiate, you get bullets in the hierarchy. So you instantiate a lot of bullets. What's happening now? Some problem or you are following? Oh. Okay, so let's try to focus because I think we're already shifting a bit with the timing because we will not get to the boss, but we will get at least to shoot the bullet or something, okay? So pay attention, please. We instantiated a bullet, it's perfect. Did you get the thing? Then you get used, you can follow. So why are we using Unity? Unity has a huge community, okay? Another line. And C#, JavaScript, whatever we look on the manual, we can see in both languages, we can ask questions. There is Unity answer, it's like a forum where we can ask whatever we want. So today we get acquainted with the basics and we get an idea of how it will work. And we have a starting code. And then from there, you are ready to go to start the tutorials. It's RAM, huh? It's not water. It's white RAM. I needed it this time. So the thing is, we have a prefab and associated prefab. Good. Let's go on. I want to create another script now. And the other script is the bullet script. Bullet script. Let's open it.
I can't find the bullet in the game object.
You can find the bullet name because you didn't.
I put it in the folder, in the prefabs folder.
No, but maybe you put just the sprite on the little feature. No, the option is you put in the scene and you have when it's here from this is the market. Then here you delete it. You don't want to okay, are we all here? So now I open as well. Also open the raw version, so it's ready in the browser. And to be honest, select it and copy it in the memory. Or we do it after, no, otherwise we're confused. Let's go here. Instead you script create a bullet with the B uppercase. If you make a mistake, it will not work. It's just because we are copy pasting my code. If you write your own code, you can give the name you want and it will work. But since we are copying from the internet and my code, we have to stick on it. Bullet with the B uppercase, okay? I open it. I go back to the browser in the raw version. I choose the bullet script. I copy it. I go back to my editor. I select everything and delete everything, and then paste it. Okay? Perfect. Notice what is this script? It's very easy. Look. 3 lines. Bullet speed is a public variable, integer number. And bullet direction is a public variable. Why? Why do I want it public? Because by being public from the inspector, I can change the speed of the bullet and even the direction, +1 or -1. Okay? If I make it private, it means that I have to enter the code to change it. If I make it public, I visually change it in Unity. So it's very powerful. Okay. Cool. Okay. Now we have bullet. Where do we put the bullet? This bullet script must be attached to the prefab bullet. So I go in prefab. I select bullet, and instead of dragging and dropping, because they are in 2 different folders, I just press add components, okay? And I look for bullet, and I add it. Did you add it? I play. What do I get? I get an error, right? Did you get? Look in the console. Follow me now. I get an error that means no rigid body to D attached to bullet. No rigid body. Why did I? What's happening? I stop playing and I go back to my code. Okay. What does my code do? My code gets the rigid body of the bullet and then shoots it. Okay. So in the prefab bullet, I will need to add a rigid body. Okay. So add component rigid body to the bullet. Are you following how we are doing the whole thing? Is someone stuck completely? Didn't understand? If someone is a bit lost but gets the idea, then you can do a tutorial anyway later. But I prefer let's try to follow. So we have a prefab, which is a bullet, which actually works. I can shoot it, but it was just in the middle doing nothing. So I attach a script to the bullet which does things like takes the rigid body and shoots it. Okay. Now I need my bullet prefab must have the rigid body and the script bullet. Notice how the prefab is good now. The prefab is good because we are already creating a bullet which has a rigid body, a script. So every time we instantiate it, every time it will have already everything, rigid body and everything. So I play it, and what's happening? You see? Do you get it? Is it working? Okay, we are creating tons of objects in the hierarchy, and they never disappear. They are in our virtual world, meaning they are in the memory of our device. So how do we destroy objects? With the command called object destroy. So let's go back to the bullet script that we have in here. I commented, this is comment. The comments are 2 slashes or to comment multi-lines in C#, use /*, */. So delete on line 29 in bullets CS, the first part, the first star and slash, and on line 35 again, delete this. So that the code actually works, okay? What does this code do? It's written in an almost human way. When the bullet disappears from the screen, becomes invisible from the camera, destroy it. So we clean the memory. This is not important for a computer like this. You can have millions of, tens of millions of it. From when you might have troubles if you don't destroy your objects. Otherwise, after half an hour you're playing, you have billions of things, and the mobile gets stuck. Okay? Now, but look what happens in the hierarchy. I shoot a bullet and they disappear. You see they're cloned and then disappear. Are you here? Did you do that? Okay. Now, I also don't like too much to press Control and Alt, which is fire 1 and fire 2, which by the way also right click and left click should work by default. If you play your game and use right click and left click to go up and shoot, it should work. Unity works. Now, what happens if I want to change the controls? So you can use the mouse, okay? But if I want to change the control for the keyboard, you go in Edit, Project Inputs. Okay, I just show you. You don't need to do that. If you have a mouse, don't use the mouse, which is actually similar to the screen of a mobile. So if you press Input, you will see axis vector. If you unfold axis, you see here, you see all the commands, fire, jump, blah, blah, blah. So fire 1 is here. Fire 2, you see here, left alt. See, if I write right alt, and I save it, that's it, I can play it. And now I can play it like this in the computer. Left control and right alt. It's just to show you. Here you can set up all the joypads you want and everything, and some of them are also associated to the touch. Okay. For example, by default, if you compile this game, and it's very easy to compile, just save it for iOS. You can touch the screen and it's already the fire 1. Okay. Okay. Now we have everything. You know what I do? I also can create. I can create here just so I don't have a ceiling. Let's create quickly a ceiling quickly. First of all, I create an empty object because I don't like things all there in the hierarchy without the order. So I create an empty object. Okay, here. Okay. I call it scene. Okay. And under the scene, which is an empty object, there's nothing. I just drag and drop the background, drag and drop the floor. You see, it's just aesthetical. It's just in order to nest elements. Because this way, look what I can do. I can close the scene, and also if I select the scene, I can also disable the whole thing. So imagine I have 200 million elements there. I disable them. Now, I have the floor. Imagine I wanted the ceiling. To make the ceiling, I can just say, right-click on the floor, duplicate. I call it ceiling with enter, ceiling. Okay. And then once I have the ceiling, I move it on top. Let's see. Okay. It's not high enough. Yes.
When you can see the
Because you can, yeah, it's a good question. You cannot see the collider.
yeah.
Let's see. You should see it. I don't know exactly why it's here. Okay.
It's because you minimize the box collider.
That's great. Thank you. I didn't know. I almost never minimize because I don't have to show to people, so I never noticed. That's good. So yes, because I minimize the box collider, I don't see the collider. So now it's a lot easier. Thank you. Here we are. Okay. So now I also have a ceiling, and I can shoot, which is a good. So shoot and ceiling. Good. Okay. Now what we want to do is creating a background that scrolls. So there are, in this kind of shooters, or even in platforms like Super Mario, you have two paradigms of scroll. Okay, one is that the camera follows the character always. So the background is fixed, and you just follow the character, and the background changes. The other, which is what I would apply here, is that we just leave the sheet that moves up and down. There, never moves, and the rest scrolls. Okay. And the effect is very similar, depends what you want to do. How do we scroll? Well, we can create a file. Basically, we have to create a script where we do the following. We take the background or whatever object and we say, look, object, when it's not visible, create another object at the beginning of the object and destroy the other. When it's not visible, destroy and create, destroy and create. So you keep seeing the thing going. It should be a background that can be timed, okay? Now, to make it properly work, the best thing to do is, I was just thinking now, the best thing to do is putting one next to the other. So we have at least two. If you have just one, the moment it realizes outside of the screen, you have a piece of blue behind because so we tile two manually, and then we keep changing the two. To do that, there is one thing I would change. Far back, the background, I would put it outside the scene. Or actually not outside the scene, but I would put it in background. So I explain what I'm doing. I'm doing another empty object, create empty, and I call it background or BG, whatever you want, background. And I'm copying far back under background. Now I'm doing nothing changed, but I will need later because I want to change, that's the background. I don't want to move the floor, okay? So I don't want to move the floor, invisible floor. I want to move just the background. So I just created background, okay? far back. Now, background can happily be under scene because semantically it's still part of the scene. So you see, I'm doing a nested structure. Okay? Any question here? I just created another empty object called background. It's like creating a folder in a folder. Now, here, let's pay attention here. Here, what we do is the following. I copy this background, okay? You see my scene from outside. I have this farback background. I duplicate it. And I have another duplicate of the background under, okay? I have the duplicate under, and I want to move it on the right so that more or less they overlap, and I have a long background. How do I do that? Instead of going manually, so it goes up, I use this, the X here. So I can move it a bit, look what I'm doing. You see? Do you see on the right? You can go manually, eh? You can just take the but so is why. Okay, but it's a long background. Is it okay? Do we all have this? Do we all have this? Did you duplicate the background? Did you duplicate? Now just move it. Move it, just drag it. I just drag it manually with the X, with the X, but if you want that, if you don't have time, just drag manually, it's not a problem. You just immediately. Now, we have to create another script, okay? Which is this. We need to make this kind of effect of scrolling. There are many scripts already available. I could come with you, but one could spend the whole day encoding a proper one, okay? Because you have to type the background according to what's visible or not. So what I did, because it's already in the wiki of Unity and it's easy, I give you the two small that you can use for all games to this stuff. Okay, only can. This is one of the most comprehensive uses in the wiki. We use that. Okay, it's composed of two files. One is a general class, and one is a file with implementation. So the first is this. It's called renderer and extensions. Okay. Also notice the name because we have to write the name with the R uppercase. Did you all copy this? So I will open it as well. Okay, it's very small. Now let's go together to scripts folder and create a new file in scripts called the renderer extension. Extensions, renderer extensions. Okay. Sorry. Of course, I show you. Look, I show you this. This is the name. Did you write it? So now we go in the code of render extension, row, we copy. So we select all, we copy. Okay. That's it. Now we open our render extension, we select everything, we delete exactly the other. Make sure, that's what I'm saying, that this name of the class, this name is exactly the same as your file, otherwise it throws you an error. What does render extension do? Nothing. Okay? It's a file that we need to use the other script. In short, there is a special utility in Unity that takes into account the bounds of the renderer. So it's something like, it's a fixed thing. And by creating this class, which is a static class, is a class that we see in another class, okay? It's like a fixed piece of code that we put when we want to do these things, okay? That is with the solution I propose. So first file you need is this. In all your games you can use this, and the second one. The second file is the following. scrolling script. Did you copy it? Okay, so also notice the scrolling script is written with S uppercase and S uppercase, okay? I open the raw version. I go back to Unity, I go here, in the inspector, and I create in the scripts a new script called scrolling script. Scrolling, uppercase S, script, uppercase S. Similar to before, we just go to the website, we select the raw version of scrolling script, which is pretty long, okay? That's why we don't want to write from scratch, otherwise we go home at 5 a.m. We go back to our editor, we delete and we paste. As usual, we check scrolling script and scrolling script, that the name is the same. Did you do that? This is just a script. Now we have to apply scrolling script. Let's do the following. Let's, if everything works, we take script, we drag it and we drop it on background, not on far back. That's why we create background, okay? Because in principle, by dropping this on background, it takes the child elements, okay? That's why I wanted to create background, but not having the floor. Okay, I drop. We also open background and do elements, okay? I added it, and you see what I have here? This scrolling script, which is, we could have coded it, it has public variables, X, Y, is looping, okay? So let's press play and see if it works. Good, it works for me. Does it work for you? Okay, so follow a second what I'm doing. Now, the only thing is that the scrolling script by default moves everything, but when I finish, it doesn't create anything else. But we have a public variable, which is a Boolean. Booleans is, Boolean means true or false. In the code, there is a Boolean which says, is looping true or false. A Boolean, when it's public in the code of Unity, and the same if you get a bit of this, it gets in the inspector. So a Boolean in the inspector becomes just a check. Okay? So I check is looping. Check it, because it's looping, right? The background is a loop, forever it goes on. And let's see what happens. Do you see what's happening here? I have two pieces of background. When one goes out, it's destroyed, and it creates one back. Cool? So it's already cool. Okay? Okay.
I put the script on but
Is background like me here?
yes, in the folder. Disabled.
Does it give you an error that you want to solve? So, what I would propose is, due to the time, okay, we could go on till like 3 in the morning, really, and do. So usually, I mean, this kind of topic you can do. Let me know if we agree on where you want to get. What I would like to get is, I was another enemy today, okay? We proposed other workshops, okay? We can propose longer ones. What I would do, because here we have the sheep, we have the bullet. If we instantiate an enemy, which is another sheep, okay, alone, and we instantiate a bullet with the enemy, the bullet, we use the same script of the bullet we are using now, but instead of one moving, we do -1, we have an enemy that shoots. And more or less we are the game, okay? So I prefer to show you another effect on this, which is parallax, okay? Explain you how to use, because we already have everything, and you have all the ingredients to start, and I teach you quickly how to put the sound. And then I show you this game half done, because I was doing it today just to show you, okay? And then I show you another game completely done and compiled. So more or less could be the option. Maybe 15 minutes is okay for you, something like this. Because the important, my goal is that you have all the ingredients to autonomously then with this, I do to do. And I will be happy also to share the source, okay? Okay. First of all, it's going a bit fast, right? So I change the speed here. I have speed. I just change it while I play. So I see, I check the speed I want. It can also be minus. If it's minus, it's opposite. Okay. And you know what? I want a very slow speed, 0.5. Very slow. Because now I want to put two layers. The layers can be whatever. The second layer now will be stars, other stars. But now, how could you see the stars in front of this? Well, this is the parallax technique. Parallax technique, which is used also in the web, means that different layers move at different speed. In 2D games, this is a technique used to implement an illusion of perspective. Even Super Mario Bros. Had it. Okay, far elements, closer elements, one goes lower than the other. Okay, so now what we are doing, okay, I put this at 0.5, okay, and now I just want to put a layer of stars, okay. Now, how do I put the stars? In our sprites, at the bottom, we have star field, okay. I drag and drop it in the. Do you see the stars? It's like a noisy image. I drag and drop the stars here on the scene. Okay. Do I see them? I'm not seeing them. I'm not seeing them. Probably I have to change the layer. Let me see. Or maybe that I have them. Yeah, I have them. No, I can see them. Do you see the stars? To see if they're there, I move the X up there, and I see that they move. Do you see I'm moving them? Okay. Now, what I want to create is like the background. I want an empty object, not background, a new one. I call it stars. So I can create empty stars. Okay, and under the stars I put star field. Okay. Now what do we do like the background? I right-click, duplicate, so I have another star field, and manually or with the top left X, I move it a bit so that it's on the right. So you see, now I have a lot of stars. Is it working for you? It's the same background. I'm moving these whole stars under scene, not under background, under scene. You see, I have background, floor, ceiling, stars. Why? Because now what I can do is go in the scripts, okay, and stick the scrolling script to stars here on stars. Okay. Now, if I click on stars, I see, in fact, I have the same. If I play, I have two layers. The background goes very fast because I was changing its speed while I was playing. So when I stopped playing, it didn't save the speed. So I click background and I put the speed 0.5. While the stars, the speed I put like 3, for example. Then you can play it. See now we have the parallax. Okay. What's happening though? I forgot to put is looping. The stars should loop, so they keep creating. It's nice. Do you see the parallax effect? By the way, I can press maximize on play and play. So we have 2 layers of background continuously generated and destroyed, and each of which has different layers and different speeds. Okay. Now, okay. That could be, if I tell you how to add sounds, okay? We can add, if you want, I show you, because otherwise it's a lot of sounds everywhere. If you want a show, I create a folder that I call sounds. So I will do that. You can try to follow, but follow, it's not a problem. It's the easiest thing we're doing tonight. Sounds. Inside the folder called sounds, we go in the original files that I gave you, and I have a folder called sounds. Okay. So I take 2 sounds, main loop and show. Perfect. So I take it and I drag and drop them in sounds. Okay? Now, here comes the good thing of a prefab. If we go in prefab and we go on player bullet, we can add a new component, a specific component, which is called audio source. Audio source. There are 2 main components, audio source and audio listener. Audio listener, there can be just one per scene, okay? And the main camera has the audio listener by default. Why? Because the camera is the eyes. So audio listener handles also Doppler effect. For example, if you have a train passing and the sound of the train, your MP3 of the train or WAV of the train does. If you are here, the camera ability, and you put the train over there and the train passes, it does it's the Doppler effect, okay? It takes care of it automatically. That's why the audio listener should be just one. It's the first person, the camera, okay? Similarly, if you are in a first person shooter and you move, if some explosion appears there, you hear it on that side. All handled by you. Now in 2D we don't really care. But still, we added an audio source to the bullet, okay? So now I have an audio source, okay? The only thing I have to do is clicking on audio clip and choose shot. Now, what does it mean? The audio source is automatically set on play on awake. So you can either play by script, like from the code, play whenever you need, or play on awake. On awake, what does it mean? It means that when you instantiate that object, it awakes, it plays. So now look. Now, with this technique, you add sounds to everything. Now, I also gave you a soundtrack, very small. How do we add the soundtrack? We can add the soundtrack, for example, to any object, the main camera. I go to the main camera, okay, and I add an audio source also to the main camera with the track, audio track. Add components, audio source, and I choose like audio clip. I choose main loop. Since it's a loop, because it's the soundtrack, I will choose not only play on awake, but also loop, okay? Now, I cannot change the volume of the projector quickly without the remote, so it will be a bit high. That's it, okay? Now that I showed this, we have, I will pass you the slides, okay, at home with all the scripts, including the graphical user interface. And in regards to the sounds, I recommend this, for example. This is a software you download, it's made with Max, if you know this Max. You know, for Mac and Windows, and you sound like the pitch granular, so you don't need to have something to you just say the WAV using for either you have a composer or phone, or you find the Creative Commons music, you do whatever you want. It works with MP3 and WAV. Now, this said, I show you, so now I show you the code I was doing for the same application, but a bit more advanced. So I did this code, which is this, I did it before. Okay, it's the same, but look here, I have the score and life. Okay, so here we have the enemy, which is also an animation that does this, okay, and you have it. You can even create more enemies with some randomization. In the code that we give you, you can play with it. How do you export for mobile devices? That's the easiest thing. In Unity, when you do file build setting, here, you just choose the device you want to export in. For example, if you want to export the game for Macintosh, okay, I just choose Mac OS. For example, I choose Universal to be sure here, okay, build setting. I press add scene. I just have one scene, level 1, and I make build. It tells me, where do you want to save it? I want to save it in my desktop, and I call it untitled. I don't care. It compiles the whole thing for Mac. So it's a game you can save, for example. What's the difference also in iOS between Unity Free and Unity Professional? A bit of extra things like in 3D, okay, like real-time improvements, but mostly is that the logo of Unity appears whenever you run a game which is made with Unity Free. So powered by Unity. So if you're saying, I have a game in the store with powered by Unity, okay, no problem. But for a tablet, it has its price, like 60 € a month, or I don't know. I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying, I never bought it. Okay, I worked with a professional for my previous job, but I never bought it. And in short, what I'm saying is, if you don't care of having the logo Unity, you have everything. That's their business model. If you want to have your game, indie game house logo, then you buy it. Did you see that? Do you see that I have a file here called a tag game? I can even put the icon when I export it, okay? And it tells me which you want it window, you want it with which resolution, okay? I do play. I window now. I put it in a window or full screen. I play. You see maybe the Unity is fixed. Okay. I didn't set up the GUI to work properly for this game. It will work for mobile. Okay. Now they said to export for iOS and Android. Now I don't export physically, but you click iOS. I didn't install the module because I just installed the latest Unity to have your same version. You just install iOS or Android. Android saves an APK file, which you just drag and drop in your mobile and it will work. iOS creates an Xcode project which is ready to go. If you have the latest iOS and the latest Unity, you have your project, you open it with Xcode. If you have your devices set up, you put it, you compile the device, and it works. I will show you right now. So again, you can do, for example, I do for a workshop with my friends when we have a bit more time, is the following. Let's see if I have it. So similar game, but with the graphics made by, maybe because I compiled it too bad. Well, I show you here. I show you the video. That's the video. Gameplay. You see? So this is something we did we do in our workshop when we have a bit more time. So it's the same code there. It's the same code. So here there are spikes out of the floor, so the spikes touch you. Here you have the propeller that just works when you click. Okay, and that's a game. And I compiled it. So I don't know if you see, but just to show, I have it here. I don't know if you see, but play Unity. Made with Unity is very small, but it's the same, you see? So the left side of the screen goes up. Do you see something? Even if it's very small. And the right side shoots. That's it. Now, any question? You have to you can download it. You can download it. Usually when you see it asks you, okay? So this version of so we have to look in the menu where you it's all free, so you can download. You pay some money if you want to export for Xbox, for example. Okay, but otherwise it works by default. Just, you know what? Just let me just show something. So there is one thing just to conclude. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, we hope you like. We are Ironhack. We are here in Barcelona, and I have two things to say. So we are not just teaching and creating bootcamps, okay, organizing bootcamps for web development or iOS development, but we are creating a big community. We already have like 1,000. So the idea is really meeting in this kind of context, having different talks, some beers, and so on. So what we do also, every bootcamp, which is 8 weeks, we have people coming from all over the world. And by the way, Ironhack is now, we are in Miami, we are in 2 continents, Miami, Madrid, and Barcelona. What we do is that when we finish a bootcamp, for example, with our web applications, okay, we organize a hack show, which is a moment in which our 5 best projects, web applications, are presented. And right this Friday at 7:30 here, we have our hack show. And also we need help because Morich, they gave us 300 beers with the fridge. So we need people to help us finishing them, okay? So you are invited this Friday at the hack show, and you are invited to take part of our community. We will soon leave this space because we got our own headquarters in Arroba 22 in Poblenou, which is, for you might know where it is, but it's 6-7 blocks from here, okay? Not so far. It's a tech district now in Barcelona. All the startups are there. We have 800 square meters ex-cookie factory just for us, with an auditorium, several rooms. We will have a skateboard ramp all over the room. So our idea is that you guys come and hang out when we organize events. We really want to create a community, and we have a lot of people who looks for, like a lot of enterprises who look for jobs. What we do, our people that do the bootcamps, 98% of them are hired by enterprises. Because we, for example, Ruby on Rails for web, they finish and are hired because we have all contacts with the enterprises, and also we have professors from the enterprises that can fish, let's say, the most brilliant, the best students. So that's our business, let's say, model on the one hand. But on the other hand, we just create a community. We want to be a reference in Barcelona for any kind of coding activity, and we are doing that by providing space, beers, events, and also some after our events, usually. This is a workshop. So we have an open mic where people come here and just say, oh, they offer them a job. And we always have some job offers, or some people might be interested in something. That's it. So I will send you the code. I have the code that I created, and I will send you through Meetup. I will send you a link, okay? So who's not subscribed in the Meetup to know how many people are not? Are you all in the Meetup? So I will send you an email with the zip package, with the code, with the enemy coming, okay? And also the slides. In this you will see communities, then one, so you can have more, so you can play with it. So we wait for you on Friday to help us finishing beers, and also support our students to see their final projects, okay? And the inauguration, keep tuned. We